Gnash. I don't know what to say about him, honestly. At least not in the first part of the video, anyways. He's definitely more liked than other legends in the game, but it still isn't by a lot. I'm personally fine with playing him, although I'm not very good at him. Okay with Spear, but my hammer game as always is very iffy. As I mentioned in past videos, Gnash mains tend to be absolute menaces, which is the leading reason why I don't like fighting Gnash typically. I think it's a good thing I'm finally talking about Gnash, considering I've talked about him so much in the past that it makes it seem like I hate fighting him. Absolutely not as much as other legends, but to a certain extent, yes. Alright, so funny story actually. But these patch notes for the next balance patch came out, and this was after I recorded audio for the Gnash video. And in the Gnash video, I mentioned that neutral sig on Spear and neutral sig on Hammer could use a nerf, like whether it's to the force or the damage or whatever. But as you can see, Axe got some nerfs, Hammer got some nerfs, Katara's got buff, Orb got a small buff, Rocket Lance, that's a pretty good buff for Rocket Lance. Scythe got a nerf, Ada got a buff. Before I go to Gnash, this buff on Nye looks completely insane. And I'm just like lost of words for this. I'll have to see it whenever it actually comes out. Moonin and Mordex nerfs, that's very nice. But Gnash, I said that, like I'll say again, I said the Spear Insig and Hammer Insig needed a nerf, like no matter what it is too, it doesn't really matter. But as you can see, the total recover time for both of them went up 2 frames. So I think that's a pretty good nerf to them, because now you gotta think more about using both Insigs. I think they'll still be pretty strong Sigs, since it's still gonna be the same damage and the same force, but if you miss, then you're definitely gonna be more open to getting punished, which I think is pretty good. But regardless, let's continue on with the Sigs. I suppose you could say the Sigs are another reason, because they actually go pretty hard. Spear and Sig covers a pretty big area, and I find using the side light working fairly well. Definitely his best Spear Sig in my opinion, and honestly I could see it getting a small nerf in the future. Spear side Sig is a pretty quick hit in front of you, and in fact, while it's a bit skinny, it can actually be pretty strong. Not really much to say about it, just don't underestimate it, but don't rely on it too much either. Spear on Sig has been a topic in the last 2 videos, with the topic of sending straight upwards. But hitting it somewhere on the top of the Sig will send your opponent straight upwards. It reminds me a lot of Gnash's Spear down Sig, and honestly I feel like it should send upright only, not entirely up. Blast Run Sig is the same case with Bolivar's Hammer side Sig and Gnash's Spear down Sig, except this one actually sends straight upwards, no joke. I swear this will be the last time I talk about Sig sending straight upwards, it's just a coincidence, but I mean come on, that angle is just kind of really stupid. That doesn't exactly save the Sig from being good, the area it hits him makes it arguably one of the worst Sigs in the game. At least to me anyways. Hammer and Sig also covers a really big area, and honestly it just scares me. If Gnash were actually recognized for his Sigs, I could see him being the next Taros, but I don't see it happening. It's a really big Sig that can hit pretty hard, and I'm pretty sure that it hits at a downward angle. I should really check these before I record audio, I don't know why I don't do that. Maybe a force down or a nerf to the hitbox in my opinion. Side Sig also hits pretty hard, but is much more counterable than in Sig. It also still covers a decently big area, which I see fitting Gnash pretty well. And as I'm dared to say again, his down Sig also hits in a big area. Absolutely not as big as in Sig or side Sig, but it travels very far and hits fairly generously. I actually love using this one, especially GC'd, and I don't think it's overpowered, just pretty damn good. Gnash, unlike Frax, actually has a good amount of skins for a base game legend, so let's blast through them. In God tier we have Silvermane, White Fang, and Reindeer Games Gnash, and Shovel Knight. Silvermane is pretty clean looking, White Fang keeps a nice caveman style to him that looks great. Reindeer Games Gnash is the right type of goofy, and also thank God you got a skin after not getting one for ages, crossover is not counted. And Shovel Knight is, well, I mean, come on. It's Shovel Knight. You've gotta love it. Pretty good tier has the Monster Gnash, Mogar Gnash, and Becky Lynch. Monster Gnash and Mogar look super cool, Monster Gnash fitting especially well for him. Mogar looks super clean, like, not a caveman. And Becky Lynch is a pretty rad WWE crossover. They're a bit underrated in my opinion, and I think Becky Lynch is a great one. Mid-tier holds just a singular skin, Chrome Tooth Gnash. Honestly, the look gets a bit old after a while, but it still looks pretty neat along with his hammer skin personally. Then mid-tier we have Pteranodon Gnash, Outback Gnash, Jurassic Gnash, and Team Spirit Gnash. I was gonna put Team Spirit and Get Out, but the weapons are decent. But these skins give off the same vibes, and honestly make Gnash look a bit gross. With colors too. Tier list wise, out of SA, B, C, and D, I want to actually place Gnash in high A tier. People might disagree because, yeah, you don't really ever see Gnash. It's kind of the same case as Frax, where new players might pick them up, spam with them for a little, and then find a new legend to actually get good with. But Gnash is actually a menace of a legend. While some of the Sigs aren't super great, a majority are really damn strong. Hammer, while being around A tier, I personally think Spear is actually S tier right now. With the new test features, Spear has benefited greatly, which is a buff to Gnash indirectly. It isn't just that though, his stats are really freaking good too. 7 attack, 3 dex, 5 defense, and 7 speed. He has high speed and attack, which is already a really good stat setup. 5 defense is around average, and dex, while it does matter for hammer, isn't entirely needed. And spear doesn't need dex really either. It's a case like with Taros where the dex absolutely doesn't matter since you deal such massive damage. Back to the stats though, I would suggest attack stance if you want 8 attack, going down on speed isn't bad, but defense stance heavily as well. You're already at low dex, so there's no reason to keep it at 3. Go down in it for the extra defense at no loss. Speed takes down on defense, leaving you with 4, and dex is kind of worthless since it is already so low. With all of that, Gnash has a fairly low play rate. I personally think it's his design that makes his play rate so low, which, yeah, I agree with. The whole caveman vibe going on isn't that good looking to me. Although, some skins and crossovers make playing Gnash feel so much better, despite not changing anything about him. You know that feeling when you buy a skin and you feel like you're performing 10 times better? Happens to me a lot. Either way, that wraps it up for the Gnash analysis. If you main Gnash, don't take any of the bad things I said personally. Being a menace isn't a completely bad thing, I think. But trust me, when you fight a good Gnash player, you'll see what I mean. Thanks for watching this analysis, and as usual, keep on brawling.